So, one of the silver linings over the past 6 to 8 months and all the craziness that the world has been going through is there's a lot of new guitar players. Thousands of people have picked up guitars for the very first time, and guitar stores and manufacturers are sold out all over the place, and that's amazing. And with that comes a whole group of beginners, people who are just picking it up for the first time and don't know where to start or how to practice or what they should be working on. And so today I thought I would make a video geared towards those people, the guitar noobs, the people that are just starting out. Now, if you're not a beginner, before you click away from this video and go watch something else, I have a request. In the comment section down below, leave a comment, leave a tip, leave something that helped you out when you were a beginner and helped you learn and get better and stick with the guitar. And if you're a beginner watching this video, check out the comment section because there's bound to be some useful information there that I don't cover in this video. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. Now, if you only take one thing away from this video today, let it be this: don't give up. When I was teaching guitar lessons, I used to see this all the time. People would give up right before they were about to make a big breakthrough in their playing. I know how it feels. You spend months and months playing and feeling like you're not actually making any progress, and it makes you feel like you want to give up, but don't. I promise that breakthrough is coming. You're gonna get over the hump, and when you do, you'll start to pick things up quicker, you'll start to understand things better, and you'll start to be able to play the stuff that you want to play much easier. So stick with it. I promise it'll get easier. So let's say you just got your first guitar. You just got home, you're excited, you're ready to start playing. But you notice that as you start to play, it's pretty difficult. Your fingers are hurting, strings are muted, notes aren't ringing out, the stuff that you're trying to learn online just doesn't sound quite right. Part of that is normal, right? It's just going to come with time. The more time you spend practicing, the better you're going to sound. But part of that can be alleviated with a guitar setup. And this is something that I recommend every single beginner do with their guitar, no matter if it's an acoustic, an electric, if it was $100 or $1,000. Taking your guitar to a professional to get set up will make a huge difference in the playability and the reliability of the guitar, making it easier to play, making it stay in tune better, and making it sound better overall. Now, if you're not familiar, setting up a guitar is a process that involves several steps, and it is something that I wouldn't recommend doing as a beginner. Instead, I would take it to a professional. You can take it to your local guitar store where you bought the guitar, or a quick Google search should bring up a list of luthiers or guitar repair people that work on guitars, build guitars for a living. It may take several days, but I think it's well worth the time and money invested to get your guitar professionally set up, especially beginner, more budget guitars like this one. Now, the next one's really basic, but it needs to be addressed, and that's tuning your guitar. You should be tuning the guitar every time you sit down to practice and play, and you should be tuning while you're playing, because there's nothing worse than sitting down and trying to play something with a guitar that sounds like that. Now, there's tuner apps for your phone that are pretty good. There are floor tuners if you're getting into pedals and effects for your electric guitar, but I think the best place to start is one of these, a clip-on headstock tuner. I'll have some of my favorite ones linked in the description box down below. These are real simple. They just clip onto the headstock of your guitar. You turn them on and you tune up. Now, when you're tuning, pick a string and let it ring out. You want to pick nice and firmly. You want a really strong note. You don't want to pick too soft, and you also don't want to pick too hard. If you're over picking, you can actually be pulling the note out of pitch. So picking nice and firmly will give you the notes you need, and before you know it, you're in tune. And while we're on the subject of picking, let's cover the picking and strumming hand and the technique involved. When I was teaching guitar lessons, this is one of the most common things that I saw beginners having trouble with, whether or not you're playing an acoustic or an electric. When starting off with a pick, you want to make sure you're holding it in the correct position. Between the first finger and the thumb, you pinch the pick like this, with the pointy end of the pick pointed towards the top of the guitar. Now, picking can be one of the more difficult things for beginners, so what I recommend practicing is picking one note at a time without hitting any other strings. Start with downstrokes, and then practice upstrokes, and then practice alternate picking, down, up, down, up. Then once you're comfortable with that, start with some basic scales and scale shapes. You can look up these shapes online and start to figure out what the notes and the intervals are, but this is a really great way to start practicing picking between strings, starting with the major scale or a pentatonic scale like this, A minor pentatonic scale. Now, strumming is another really important technique to master early on because a lot of what you're going to be playing on guitar requires good strumming and rhythm technique in your picking hand. Now, one common thing I saw with beginners when learning how to strum was this motion here. It's almost as if your arm is locked off right here. You have no motion in your wrist and you're pivoting at your elbow. Instead, what we want to do is loosen up the wrist and have most of our strumming action come from this wrist motion. I used to tell my beginner students, it's almost as if you're shaking water off your hands. You just washed your hands in the sink and you're shaking water off. This is going to give you a lot more control over the sound coming from your guitar. You can strum harder for a more intense sound, or you can soften it up for a little sweeter sound. It's also going to give you more control to target specific strings while you're strumming. If you notice that pattern I just played, I wasn't strumming all 6 strings at once. Instead, I was targeting the low 6th string, the root note of this chord, and then strumming the rest of the chord beneath it. Now let's talk about the left hand, or the playing hand. First of all, when you're starting out, it's gonna hurt. Now there's some things you can do to mitigate that, but you're gonna have to take time to develop the calluses on your fingertips, and the only way to do that is time spent playing the guitar. The other thing is focus on where the string is resting on your fingertip, and you can tell by just pressing down on the string and looking at the little depression in your skin where it's actually falling. Ideally, you wanna be up on the tip of your finger. You don't want to have your finger too flat like this on the pad. You want to be up on the tip. This is going to do a couple of things. It's going to help you get nice, clean, and clear notes. And when playing chords, it's going to help you from muting the other strings. That's a really common problem when people are learning to play chords. You get 1 or 2 of the notes to ring out clearly while the rest are choked off. Getting your fingers up on their tips like that will help keep that from happening. Now, thumb positioning on the back of the neck is important, and there's multiple positions to consider. Oftentimes when I'm playing single notes or melodies, I will have my thumb on the back of the neck like this. But if you watch me and a lot of other guitar players play, you might notice our thumbs come over the top of the neck like that. This is more comfortable for me when playing chords like C or G, D. It puts the neck in the palm of my hand and it makes it more comfortable to play. I have more grip strength on the fretboard and it gives me more control over what I'm doing. And I think another big thing to be conscious of as a beginner when you're fretting notes and chords is your intonation. Intonation basically means playing in tune with a certain note. Now, part of that has to do with your guitar's setup. One of the things a luthier is going to do when setting up your guitar is setting the intonation so the guitar plays in tune all the way up the neck. But if you are pressing too hard on the fretboard, you can actually bend the note out of pitch just by playing it. For example, play the C note again here. With the proper strength, it's going to be in tune. But if I push down way too hard, you'll hear it bend out of pitch. And it also hurts. So now let's talk about practicing and some strategies that I think will really help you out in staying on track and continuing to progress and get better faster. First of all, I think it's better to break up your practice time, your playing time, into shorter chunks over a more consistent period rather than taking 1 or 2 days a week, maybe the weekend, and playing for 3 or 4 hours on those days only. If you've got 10 minutes here and 5 minutes there and 15 minutes there, it's a lot easier to pick the guitar up and just sit and play around. Work on a song or chord progression that you're trying to learn, practice some scale shapes, or maybe a solo that you're trying to learn, or maybe you're trying to write a song. Whatever it is that you're doing, I think it's better to take it in small little chunks every single day rather than putting it off for the weekend. And I think one strategy that'll really help you in doing that is leaving your guitars out. Don't keep them in their cases. Leave them out around the house, maybe on a guitar stand or on the couch, whatever you're most comfortable with. But you're much more likely to pick the guitar up and play if it's easily accessible. Me, I have all of my guitars out and they're all over the house. Most of them are in my studio room here, but I've got some out there. And then I usually have one acoustic like this out lying around so that at any time I can just pick it up and start playing no matter where I am or what I'm doing. Now, if you're really serious about learning guitar, I think the best thing you can do when it comes to practice is hire a teacher. In-person lessons aren't really that feasible right now due to the pandemic, but Zoom lessons, Skype lessons certainly are, and there's actually a huge advantage to that. Lots of my peers, my fellow musicians right now, are out of work. We've lost our gigs, we've lost our tours, our studio sessions, and because of that, a lot of these players have turned to teaching online lessons. Now for you, as a beginner, that is huge because you now have a wide variety of teachers and different styles and experience levels to choose from. Now I would do your research. Maybe there's some local guitar player near you who's teaching Skype lessons, or maybe one of your favorite players is out there teaching lessons now. Either way, it's worth looking around on things like Instagram or Facebook for people who are teaching guitar lessons remotely online and signing up for weekly or bi-weekly lessons with them. I think it's a great investment of your time and your money, not just for you as a guitar player, but also because you're going to be helping support a musician in a time of need right now. Also, a lot of these players have video courses for sale online. I have a course for sale, as well as a lot of other people here on YouTube. And these are great because they allow you to work at your own pace, fitting your time in where you can with your work schedule and your life. Either way, I would highly recommend finding a teacher if it's in your budget and you have time for it. So there you go. Those are some tips to help you out in your guitar journey. If you're new here, subscribe down below and don't forget to ring that bell. It's going to notify you when I'm going live each month with my Backstage Live series, as well as posting new videos here every week. Speaking of Backstage Live, our next show is this Saturday, October 10th. We're doing a Hendrix case study. I'm really excited about it. If you haven't caught any of the previous shows, you can check them out here or in the playlist down below. But be sure to be there live, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, October 10th on this YouTube channel. You want more information about the gear that I used in today's video? That'll all be linked in the description box down below. Those are affiliate links, so if you buy something there, I earn a small commission, which really helps me out in making these videos, so I appreciate it. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Rhett Shull. Check out my tone course down below if you're a beginner electric player and you want to learn about great guitar tone and how electric guitars and amps and effects and all that stuff works. Check out that video course. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Rhett Shull. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget there is no plan B.